welcome back to another episode of Short Film Saturdays. I know everyone is super excited. This is the perfect way to end this summer month of August. I know I said summer weird. I am in South Africa, so it's winter for me here, but I know for most of you it's summer, so I'm trying to keep with it. Anyway, my name is 𝗕𝗡𝗍𝗔 𝗏𝗧𝗏, and I'm the community outreach manager here at Soleil Space, and I'm going to lead you into this wonderful journey that is Short Film Saturdays. Our mission here at Soleil is to achieve a more equitable and representative global film and television landscape. Our focus is on the global diasporas of Asia, Africa, Latin America, and the Caribbean, with the goals of elevating untold stories from these cultures, forming closer transcultural community bonds, and providing opportunities and resources for our creators to produce premium world-class content. We specialize in film, TV, editorial, production, and aim to uplift those underrepresented voices that are often not seen authentically represented or well understood in the global mainstream media. There's no better way to do that than with, you guessed it, short films. Shorts are often the purest form of artistic expression and often, but not always, executed within the boundaries of smaller production budgets. I'm so proud to say that since launching Short Film Saturdays in the late summer of 2021, we have featured 61 films from 50 filmmakers in 24 countries to date. Wowie. And we are adding to those numbers today with our wonderful guest. But before I introduce our super cool guest, I would like to introduce my co-host. I have Serge with me here, and he's going to tell you all about 𝗦𝗨𝗣𝗘𝗥𝗢𝗢𝗧𝗘𝗗, who we are in partnership with today. Go ahead, Serge.
Thank you, 𝗕𝗡𝗍𝗏. Great introduction, as always. It's always difficult to come after a Soleil introduction, but I'll try to do my best. It's a Nollywood Week. For those of you who don't know, Nollywood Week started in 2013, so we are 9 years old. It's a film festival that is dedicated to showcasing the best out of Nigeria. So we started at a time when Netflix was not global, so really accessing films coming out of Nigeria, the new scene, the new crop of talent was just really difficult. It was almost impossible. And so we decided to start this film festival, which is based in France, in Paris, France, but now with technology, we can be also accessible everywhere. But we decided to start this festival in order to really create an outlet for those films that we felt were of great quality, but didn't really have that much of a reach outside of Nigeria. And so the festival has been ongoing since 2013. Next year is going to be our 10th edition. And I'm happy to have Solomon with me here today. We showcased his film Joy back in 2016, 2016, so it's already 6 years ago, but it's one of these films that impacted us, and that's why we wanted to share with you all who may not have had a chance to see it, whether it's in Paris or in other places, and right now is the time to watch the film and get to exchange with the director behind it, Solomon Onita, who I guess is now going to introduce himself.
Yes, so here we have Solomon Onita Jr. He's an award-winning writer, director, and Solomon has been greatly influenced by both his Nigerian heritage and his American upbringing. Solomon uses a blend of both worlds to tell stories from a first-generation American perspective, allowing him to expose audiences to the voices of a community rarely heard from in mainstream film. Solomon recently completed his debut feature film, Tazmanian Devil, in 2020, and that won the first ever John Singleton Award for Best First Feature presented by Netflix at the 2020 ABFF and is currently streaming on Stars. Solomon is an MFA graduate at Loyola Marymount University and is a fellowship recipient of the 2020 Warner Bros. Television Directors Workshop. Wowie, so let's hear from Solomon. Solomon, can you please tell us a bit about the two films we're going to watch today, Joy and Witch Hunt?
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. So Joy and Witch Hunt are two films I made while at Loyola Marymount University. They're my graduate thesis and pre-thesis films. Joy is about a family who is kind of contemplating whether they should circumcise their daughter. And it's about like the traditions we pass down to the younger generations and kind of like a legacy of family kind of further passes down from generation to generation. Witch Hunt is a folktale that I came up with. It's a mix of like a story I heard before and then a blend of my own kind of like imagination to it. But with that film, I just kind of wanted to explore African mythology and stuff like that. So hope you guys enjoy.
Very, very cool. So with that, we're going to now watch those two films, Joy and Witch Hunt, back to back. After that, do not go anywhere, all right? After those credits roll, we are going to be having a Q&A where we get to ask Solomon all about his amazing films. And then at the very end of that Q&A, we are taking audience questions. So make sure you stick around and you ask all of your burning questions, okay? So with that, this is YouTube, I have to say it. Like and subscribe, hit that bell notification. And with that, let's watch those films. Alrighty, everyone, welcome back. This is Short Film Saturdays. For those who are just joining us, we have just watched Joy and Witch Hunt, two amazing short films from our guest filmmaker here, Solomon Onita Jr. And you guys know what it is. Now we get to ask our questions. Audience members, I know you also have questions. Please do not submit them now. Hold off until the very end because I'm just not scrolling back up to find your questions. So submit them at the end. I'll tell you when. But first, since we saw the film Joy first, let's ask about that one first. Solomon, we have a very international audience here on Short Film Saturday. Not everyone is going to know what it is. So can you please explain to us what is female genital mutilation and tell it how it occurs, I would say in Nigeria, but also in the Nigerian diaspora?
I don't know much about the practice, like on like a medical terminology, but I know it's like it's the cutting and sewing of the female genitals, and oftentimes it's done for like purity reasons and to ensure abstinence before marriage and all that kind of stuff. But beyond that, I don't know much of the details of it. My research was only in order to make the film, but I didn't go more in depth into that.
Okay, totally. But then culturally speaking, so we know it's something that would be traditionally done in Nigeria. Do we often see it being brought up as a conversation in Nigerian diasporas? Let's just say in America, since you are from America.
No.
We won't speak about other places.
I wouldn't say it's something that comes up often. It's not really a main practice done in Nigeria that much, at least that I'm aware of. There might be, certain groups that might still carry it out but from the community I'm a part of, it's not a big practice. For the film, I used it because I know it's like a taboo kind of issue, and it kind of made my point towards like, what do we value as community and what do we choose to pass down. So I wanted something that was kind of, had a bold kind of reaction to it. So that's why I decided to make the film about that.
Very nice.
Someone I wanted to ask you, because your main character in Joy is literally with the same background as you, meaning Nigerian parents growing up in America, kind of like being stuck in between two different cultures. How was that for you growing up? Is that like, how were you affected by that dichotomy? And also, is that one of the reasons why you became a filmmaker, to tell those stories, or not? It might not be the case, but I was just wondering about the impact that it had on you growing up.
Yeah, so kind of growing up with the influence of two different cultures is interesting because as a kid and as a youth, your influence is kind of pulled in two different directions. Like when you're in school and out in the world, you want to fit in with the life you see outwardly, but then at home, there's a very strong cultural influence in like the way we do things as a family, as a tribe, so, but it wasn't until I got older, into like my adult years, I knew how to almost integrate the two and kind of carry both faces out with me into the world. But yeah, as a kid, like you see things at home that you don't necessarily see outside, and you don't know, like, what will be accepted. And that's the main thing a kid is thinking about, like, how do I become accepted? How do I assimilate into the places I'm in? But yeah, I think those questions start to fall away the more you become comfortable with yourself, and the more that you start to integrate like all these different parts of yourself into yourself. So like, I would say that, I'm both American and Nigerian, and that's kind of how I interface with the world.
Very cool.
And just as a follow-up on that, did that shape your career as a filmmaker? Would you say that it shaped your career?
Early on, yeah, because it was what I was telling a lot of my stories about. You know, even up to my feature that I shot back in 2019, it's about that same topic as far as like the immigrant experience and kind of the first generation experience. Going forward, though, it'll still have a bit of an influence, but it's not the only perspective I'm telling stories from. You know, like filmmakers, we often tell things, or we often tell stories about things that we're still contemplating within ourselves, or things we try to find clarity within ourselves. So, you know, that's the reason why a lot of my work shows that up until this point. But now I'm kind of reaching a different evolution to where I'm starting to examine different parts of life and telling stories about different aspects about who I am.
Very nice. So then I wanted to kind of get into the heart of what made you want to make this film, Joy. What is your personal experience as it relates to female genital mutilation? Obviously, I know you, but like, you know, being that you grew up in America, but like, what made you want to tell this story? When did you maybe learn about mutilation? Things like
I learned about FGM in undergrad at the University of Texas in Arlington. I forgot what class I was in, but it's something that we kind of discussed for maybe like a week or so. And it just stayed with me. I didn't make Joy until I got to my master's program in Los Angeles. But when I was writing, or when I was thinking about the project that I was going to do for my project at LMU, these things kind of came back to my head, and I was like, maybe I can make a film about FGM and kind of put it in the context of like family tradition and values and stuff like that. So that's pretty much where it came from. Like I said before, I don't have any personal experience with FGM, or I don't know anyone who has a personal experience with it. But just from like a research perspective and like, you know, discussing it at one time in school, I thought to just tell a story about it.
And also, can you tell us about the reception of the film Joy? How was it received? Not just in festivals or in other kind of traditional screenings like that, but because of the topic, I'm assuming that maybe some older people also got to watch it, like, you know, people that would be the same age as the parents that are being portrayed in the film. And if so, how did they react? And do you feel like it's the kind of film that could make parents to basically change their mind about this kind of practices? Is that something that you feel like has been achieved by the film over time?
Yeah, the film had a strong reaction when it came out. It got a lot of support. You know, many different places wanted to show it and kind of use it as an advocate type of film. So I saw that kind of wave to it. Another thing I saw is that, you know, people would message me and say that I didn't really understand the things that I was talking about, which is very fair, because I don't understand it to that degree. You know, like from what I said before, I did just enough research to tell the film. I didn't go beyond that. Like I wasn't really trying to be an advocate for anything when I made the film. I was just exploring creativity. So, you know, I took that response and I kind of try to see things from their perspective as far as like, why do they hold so strongly to particular values and practices as well? So for me personally, I'm not really placing judgment on if people should do it or not do it. You know, the film says what it says and it kind of shows the perspective it does. But other than that, you know, it's an individual kind of decision as far as what people do and not do.
All righty, and with that, we want to hop over to Witch Hunt and ask some questions about that one. So to start off, what inspired you to take an African folktale and turn that into a short film?
So I would say Witch Hunt is probably more closely aligned to how my creativity is flowing these days, as far as like finding things that almost seem obscure and bringing some kind of relevance to it. But when I made Witch Hunt, I was just kind of looking through a book of mythology and a book of like belief systems and stuff like that. And I came across the stories of how people might take a difference from maybe like albino person or somebody who has a deformity and kind of use them for ritual practices. And so I came up with this story, like doing an adaptation of something that I read and creating this in the witch hunt film.
And as a director, how do you what is the degree of adaptation that you have to undertake in order to make a film like that? Because it's such a different genre from Joy that we saw before. And I believe it was also a new genre for you to explore. So just working with the actors in terms of everything, how much adaptation did you have to do to make a film like Witch Hunt?
Yeah, I had to kind of divorce, I guess, previous conceptions I had around African mythology and stuff like that, and had to just take ownership of what I was telling. Because when it comes to adaptation, if you try to do it too closely to the adaptation, I mean, that's a process, but if you do it that way, then it's really, in my perspective, it's not a true adaptation. It's just you retelling something. To make it a true adaptation, you have to put some ownership into it and kind of tell it from your voice and your perspective. So that's what I did with this film. I wrote a totally different story. Like, I took the mythology of it and I told my own story through that mythology. And that's how I came up with this. But yeah, that's it's an interesting process because, you put yourself in that perspective and you start to see things based off of your conditioning and stuff like that. And then you'll eventually, the more you do it, you'll come up with a story.
Very nice. So then getting into more of the technical aspects of the film, where was Witch Hunt shot, and were there any difficulties to shooting primarily outdoors?
It was shot in California, and I shot it on a ranch. It's a ranch kind of dedicated to filmmaking. The difficulties is just, kind of meeting up with the day. I shot it in the winter, so we had shorter days. So I think we were working off of 8-hour days and stuff like that. And since we also had a kid on set, just managing times where you can work with the child and all that type of stuff. But I would say the hardest thing about it was just the shorter days because, you have to work quicker and stuff like that. But other than that, it was a fun shoot. And I do like working outdoors. There's an element of unpredictability to it. So that's always fun.
Very cool.
I was going to ask, what would you say is the overall message of Witch Hunt? And why was it an important film for you to make?
Overall message of Witch Hunt. It's been a while now. I have to think about that one. Probably to kind of follow your core beliefs and your core, what's your core essence? Like with the main character, she was following this master wanting to do what he does and become like a spiritual doctor. With the boy, he's looking up to his parents and he's being conditioned by them wanting to be, who they want him to be. But then it comes to the point in the middle of the film where they both have to kind of separate from their influence and kind of forge their own path. And their path, at that point leads them together where they choose to survive life together. And that's, at the time, that's kind of what was my process. It's like, I made that when I was in my master's program. So at that point, I was kind of leaving my family, developing my own thoughts, my own ideology and stuff like that. So it was reflected in my film. It's like, after a while, you kind of take ownership of your own mind and your own perspective of life, and you set forward that way.
Very cool. So then to ask some questions about you as a filmmaker, as well as both the films. So Witch Hunt and Joy both center around the experiences of women. What compels you to tell these female-centered stories? Is it just a coincidence that, we happen to show the two films of yours that are female-centered, or is this an overarching theme in your work?
I wouldn't say it's overarching, but I am drawn to the female perspective often because, I just feel like let me think about how to say this. Women carry such a strong influence for me because I grew up surrounded by women mainly. I have 3 sisters, and then my mom. I'm the only, well, other than my dad, I'm the only boy in my family. I was the only son. So the female influence is just very strong within me. So I often tend to see things from their perspective, and, you know, just kind of looking out into the world. Growing up, I've seen a lot of suppression of the female voice. So I always find ways to see how I can, you know, lend some empowerment to it. Although I'm not a woman myself, but if I can step into their perspective and see things from their point of view, maybe it'll help how I navigate life. And then it might help somebody who watches my film see how they can navigate life as well. But I wouldn't say it's an overarching theme. It's just something that I like to go to a lot to kind of get out of my own brain and see things from somebody else's view.
Very nice. And are these 3 older sisters?
Yeah, I have 3 older sisters.
That's what I thought. I knew it. Okay, because like if they're younger, then you're, you know, kind of not helping raise them, but like, you know what I mean? Like you're the older brother kind of showing them the world, but instead it was your mom, your dad, and then 3 older sisters showing you the world. So that's very cool. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to ask, just to add to this, would you consider yourself a feminist?
How would you define feminist?
You got to define it,
No,
what was that?
I wasn't going to define it, but it's just, you know, like, you know, Chimamanda famously said that, you know, we should all be feminists. Like, it's not something that should be restricted to just women being feminists. So in that sense, I wanted to know, growing up with 3 sisters and all of that, if that's something that you felt you also were.
Well, I mean, I guess because people define it differently, so I'm not sure how to answer it. Like a feminist meaning, like, I guess I'm interested to see how you can conceptualize that word.
I mean, I guess it kind of echoes what you were saying earlier about showing the perspective, like women's perspective, as opposed. Like,
okay, so if it's that, then yeah, I'm a feminist in that sense. But then, you know, me, I try to walk in with equilibrium and see both sides of it. Like, you know, I'm a male, and the world is heavily dominated by the male perspective. So I'm not discounting that, and I'm not discounting their influence, but also know that the woman is the balance of that too, and see, you know, both the feminine and the masculine energy, how they work together in order to produce a whole. So, you know, to say I'm feminist, I don't want to isolate myself to that perspective either. You know, it's just something I respect. I respect it a lot, knowing that I'm on, you know, I carry the male gender and I have masculine energy within myself, you know.
All right, fair enough. I wanted to ask you also about your relationship with short films, like short films as a format. Because, you know, as a filmmaker, you've done your first feature film recently, but you've done a lot of short films. And clearly you also have the ability to do more features. So I wanted to know if it was that thing of, because you were coming up, you had to start by shorts, or is it something that is really close to your heart and you feel like that's your favorite genre or your favorite format? Sorry. So yeah, I wanted to know your relationship with shorts. You know, this is called Short Film Saturday, so I guess it's a right platform to discuss short films. And you know, now that you are making feature films, are you going to go back to still making shorts, or are you now moving forward and moving on with your career?
I like the short format a lot, actually, because it's just like, it's a quick thing for people to watch. You can tell a quick message in it. For me, I look for ways to kind of bring synergy into my work. So although I'm writing features, through like the medium of anthology, I can still tell short stories, or in that format, through like an anthology feature. So I'm practicing with that a lot. Like, shorts is not something that I'll probably ever stop making or stop telling stories through. I'll just find ways to tell it in a broader context. So like, if I'm working in television, you know, those could be considered shorts because those are like 21 to 29 minutes if you're doing comedies, and then 45, you know, but it's a bit shorter than the 2-hour feature. But then even beyond that, like with the anthology format, you can tell 15-minute shorts and have a collection of those and call it a feature as well. And if it's tied by the same theme, you can tell an interesting story that way, and it can flex your creativity a bit. So yeah, I'm a fan of shorts, and I'll be making them. As far as shorts alone, like just making a short on its own, life will have to tell. I can't say now if I'll make another one, or because I'm focused more on television and features.
Very cool. And with that, I want to open up the floor to audience questions. It is the time we've been waiting for. Everyone, go ahead, submit your questions. Go, go, go. While we are giving everyone a couple minutes to type, to think, to craft those beautiful questions, we need to know, Solomon, what is next for you? What projects should we be looking forward to?
Right now, I'm working on a horror project. It's also anthology. So the question from before made sense because it's pretty much 3 short films packaged together to form an anthology feature. So yeah, it's one that it also focuses on like the Nigerian perspective. Well, not really Nigerian, but more so African perspective, and kind of how colonization and stuff like that traveled and kind of mutated Black existence over time. So that's kind of what the horror film is about. I'm working on that now and seeing how to get that one made.
Very cool. And so then how can audiences keep up with you? So now everyone in the Short Film Saturday audience is obviously a fan. They want to know exactly how they can follow you, keep up with you. Is it through your website, through social media? What's the best way?
Probably through social media. Although I don't post it often, but when I do post, it's always updates about the stuff I'm working on in my career and stuff like that. But yeah, that's probably the best way.
Great. So
eventually,
which social media platform and what is your handle?
What was that?
Which social media platform and what is your handle?
Oh, on Twitter and Instagram, and both handles are Solomon Onita Jr.
Nice and easy to remember. Great, perfect. Alrighty, and with that, we can open up the floor to audience questions. I see we've got quite a few in there already. I love to see it. So let's start. We have a question from Caroline. As a director, are you very interactive and giving a lot of directions to your actors, or are you more of a hands-off, trust the actors kind of director? Yeah, that's the whole question. Sorry.
I would say I'm more hands-off. I bring the spirit of collaboration. So I expect the actors that I work with to break down the story from their point of view as an actor and to bring something to the table. And then my job is like to kind of guide that and mold it to a unified vision. But I don't tend to dictate how an actor should perform, or even how they should conceptualize the work that they're doing, because it's from their unique creativity that I'm working with, and the blending of the two is what's making the master art. So that's how I view it.
Very nice. All right, so now we have a question from Joy. After watching, so her name is Joy. After watching Joy and Witch Hunt, you see the different dynamics portrayed between parent and child, children that become orphans, and how these are female-centered stories. How do you describe your authenticity or relatability when you're directing and telling these stories?
Well, I guess it's authentic to me because when I made both of those films, like how I spoke about before, it was kind of my own mental process at the time, like separating my ideology from like my parents and like my families, and kind of forming my own life perspective and view. Also at the time, I guess I say I had integrity from doing it, because it was a hard thing to kind of separate yourself from the pack, like when you grow up and you're conditioned a certain way, and you're taught to believe certain things or to see life a certain way, to decondition yourself out of that to form your own perspective takes some integrity, because you're now separating yourself from your protection, or from what you thought protection was when you were growing up. So it took some integrity and some authenticity, but that's what the 2 films reflect.
Very nice. So now we have a question from CJ. How do you choose what stories you want to tell, and how much time do you spend researching?
I feel like the stories choose me. Yeah, I just kind of, I don't force anything. I just kind of go with the free spirit, and whatever I feel like I'm drawn to, or whatever keeps on replaying itself in my mind, then I sit with it. And once I've sat with it for a while and it's still there, then I begin the process of writing and, you know, outlining and stuff like that to tell a new story. But yeah, I don't go around collecting ideas for stories. I just let them kind of come naturally.
Oh, very cool. So Mario wants to know, any chance of Joy becoming a feature?
I wrote a script for a Joy feature, but I don't know if I'll ever make it.
Oh, okay. So the answer is you have to follow Solomon on social media to find out. Alrighty. So then Mika has the question. Okay, it's not a question, but like it is a question. Would love to hear about the costuming process for Witch Hunt. And I second that. Those costumes were amazing.
Yeah, I worked with a woman named Taylor. I forget her last name now, but she designed all the costumes from scratch. I remember I pulled like references for her, and from the references, she was able to design the costumes and stuff like that. It was a very fun process for me because it was the first time I worked like that closely with the costume designer, and that she was able to match my vision so closely. But yeah, she has her own business. She finds the material, she puts it all together. You know, it's pretty much her creativity. All I did was show her the references, and she came up with the design.
That is so cool. So the costumes for Witch Hunt, where are they now? This is my audience question.
So I used to have them, but I've moved so much. So as I move, I don't carry things with me. So between one apartment to the next, it got lost in the shuffle. But yeah, at a point I did have all of them, but I would say I just have like maybe a couple things now. I don't have the full sets anymore.
Those are limited edition collector's items now. Come on. You gotta keep those.
Gotta think about the merchandising.
Yeah.
All right, we have a question from Nadine. Where is Joy available to watch today? So people need to watch this.
Yeah, it's on YouTube. It used to play on HBO, but I don't think it's on there anymore. The last I know, I think it's on Issa Rae's YouTube channel, as far as like being on a permanent online site. It used to be on my Vimeo as well, but it's not on my Vimeo anymore. So probably if you just search my name on YouTube, you'll find the film.
Very nice. Alrighty. And because I can't keep you here forever, we will take one more audience question. This final question, what tribes were represented in Witch Hunt?
No tribe in particular. I made most of Witch Hunt up. Okay. So I'm not representing any type of group or tribe or anything like that. The language they speak is just made up imaginary. It's not a real thing.
Oh, no way. It sounded so real.
No, yeah, they're mumbling words.
Oh, that's so funny. Because I remember seeing in the chat during the screening, I'm like, oh, what language is this? And I was like, yeah, I have no idea.
Oh, well, I think the woman does speak Yoruba. The mother speaks Yoruba. Yeah,
right, so
but like the witch doctor
is.
Yeah, the witch doctor, he's just making up a language. But yeah, Yoruba is like the main influence because that's the tribe I'm from. So if they have to speak in the dialect, then it's probably that. But I'm not like, it's not a Yoruba story, or I'm not representing Yoruba with the film.
That is so funny. I absolutely love that. All righty, that is it for audience questions. Solomon, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today. It has been so much fun, and thank you for letting us watch your amazing films. Serge, thank you for being the co-host of all co-hosts. As always, asking the hard-hitting questions. We love having Nollywood Week Paris on here with us. And so with that, parting words, we are having a giveaway on our Instagram account celebrating 5 years of Soleil and 1 year of Short Film Saturdays. So if you want to participate and win, you gotta hit that Instagram page. All right, you gotta do the things. Go to the Instagram page, do the things, win the stuff. We also have our new website, soleilspace.com, so you can see everything happening with Short Film Saturdays, but also our other editorial things over there, soleilspace.com. Super easy to remember. You got this. Our next short film Saturday is on the 10th of September. We are collaborating with Third Horizon again, and we are having two great filmmakers on, Niall Salter and Ian Harnarine. Don't forget to like and subscribe. This is YouTube. Y'all know what it is. Hit that bell notification. And Solomon, Serge, thank you again for hanging out with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nase. Thank you so much. Thank you, Solomon. It was great, good conversation. Looking forward to having you here again. Never know.
Oh yeah, for sure. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, guys.